what does masculine emotional release look like?
Right.
In a way that's, I'm not going to say feminine. It's not feminine, but it's like the equivalent of like how women cry with each other, but like in the male way. This is a film about a father
I love
trying
that.
to like keep his own drama away from his son on his son's special day. And by trying to like uphold this masculine, I have it together, he's ruining it. And
Right.
it's about like realizing that this isn't the way to just being vulnerable is the only, it's like the only way out is through emotionally.
Today, filmmaker Portlynn Tagavi of the film MOSH and so many other great works, both film, art. Your Instagram is complete fire in terms of what it brings. Thanks for joining me today on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So I watch MOSH, and from the very start, I think within 90 seconds, you know what's going to happen. And I thought, wow, how did somebody come up with this concept of such a cool film? It started off I'm so engaged, I'm so into it. How did you get started? Did you know right away that you were going to be a filmmaker, one of those kids like from 10 years old, like with
Um,
cameras, or was it something that just evolved?
so I started off in animation, and when
Okay,
I was 6 years old, I actually remember watching Pocahontas on VHS.
interesting.
Yeah, and at the end of the credits, they actually had Glenn Keane flipping through a pencil test animation for Colors of the Wind, and I was like, "People draw this?" I always like to draw, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love animated movies. I wanna do that." I was 6, and then I was like, "Oh, you have to draw the same thing twice." So then I sat down, not realizing that, like, when you animate, they don't draw individual drawings. There's a lot of, like, tracing and, like, using,
Right.
transparency paper. And I tried drawing, like, a character, and then I tried drawing her again on another sheet of paper, and it did not work out, and then for 10 years, I was like, "I guess I can't do this." And then I ended up going to an arts high school. I always wanted to work in film. There was a moment where I thought I'd be an actress when I was, like, in middle school. And then I went to this arts high school, and we had an animation class, and we were just using Flash, and I was just like, "Oh, I love this." I then, like, immediately learned about this school called CalArts, which a lot of Pixar came out of it. Like, anyone Gravity Falls creator came from there, Tim Burton also went there, and I was like, "I need to go to this school." So I ended up going there for 2D animation. I went there for 4 years, graduated, worked as a story artist, and then
Wow.
was like, "Oh, actually, I also wanna make films on the side, and I'd love to learn live action." I always wanted to do just, like, films in general, but it's a little bit of a windy road, but still yeah. So, long
Yeah,
answer, short
completely.
question.
No, so do you feel like I'm sure you've created animated films, like, how do you see the difference between that and, like, when you decide to do a live action film?
Oh my gosh. So, my personal experience, so I actually still work in animation as a story artist
Okay,
at Netflix currently,
right.
and that's a whole other thing, but for me personally, whenever I've made animated films, specifically in undergrad, it was like a one-man band. I make the
Right.
story, write it, storyboard it, character design, like, the whole movie. It was really weird. Going into live action directing, I was like, "I'm a director," but I'd never directed other people. I had only just made stuff on my own
Right.
versus going to AFI for directing. I was like, I had never been on a set. I had never spoken to actors. Like, the whole concept of talking to actors to this day freaks me out. I listened to Judith Weston's book, like, weeks prior to auditions and rehearsals and stuff because 'cause I'm like, "How what adverbs? No, verbs, as ifs." Like, the whole concept of prepping that was because in animation, you're just like, you're the actor, you're
Doing it
drawing it.
yourself.
Yeah. So that was a huge thing, and then also, I think the limitations of being on a set and having a very specific amount of time to get out of a location is something that you
Right.
don't need to experience in animation. Learning how to be very specific and particular about, like, composition, staging, blocking in regards we only have 4 different setups for this scene, and
Right.
you want to close up this animation, you can just, like, a different shot for every cut. It's very interesting how much more deliberate you need to be, especially in lower budget indie stuff.
Wow. So I think you may be the first person I've talked to who's got the master's from the AFI. What was that process like? Did they put, is it small class? I imagine it's maybe like 12 people, something more than that, maybe. And then was it
I
specially
wish.
chosen to have like different backgrounds as part of their classes?
That's interesting. So it's actually, I think it's even gotten larger now since the pandemic,
Okay.
but we were in a class. So I just did Project Involved, which is what I did MOSH. And MOSH, the Project Involved is very similar to AFI, where
Got it.
there's a directing program, there's a producing, writing, cinematography, editing, production design, I
Oh,
believe.
wow.
And for, I think technically for the above the line departments, so directing, producing,
Right.
writing, there's like, we're 28 people per
Okay.
unit.
Got it.
And then there'd be like, I think there were like 8 production designers, like 12 editors. It was like a smaller group of those people. And we would each like team up. There'd be like 28 films per like cycle. And in terms of like
Interesting.
background, it was really interesting. I started going there in 2017 and I need to change my bio. It says recently graduated. It's been a while now. But
It's still
like,
recently. The pandemic sort of lengthens everything seems like a couple years ago and ends up being like 8 years ago. So I think it's still
absolutely,
recent.
absolutely. When I had to, we were in Slamdance for our Project Involved short. A bunch of AFI people were there, and I had to like talk about when I went because there was some recent grads, and I was like, oh my god, I went
Right.
like almost 8 years ago now. When I started going there, it was like right around Me Too. This had nothing to do with it, but just like in terms of like experience and backgrounds and stuff, I was
Right.
like really excited and shocked in a great way to see that, for example, the directing program was 50-50, like male to female. And it was awesome. And it was an extremely diverse, eclectic group of students in the program, and it led to a lot of very cool and interesting perspectives in storytelling. But yeah, and then people from all over the world. It's a very international
That's
school,
awesome.
actually. Yeah.
That's awesome. And it must have been interesting finding your match for your film. If there's 28 films and there's each like a person, like, how did that part work? Was it just like all in a room and then like hope for the best that there's somebody that has the same sort of mindset that you have?
It's very fascinating. AFI is interesting. AFI taught me that filmmaking, because again, animation, CalArts make your film by yourself. You don't
Right.
need people to necessarily mesh with you very well. You make friends
Exactly.
with people because we're sitting next to each other in a computer lab drawing, but it was such a strange experience to be like, I hope you like me. I hope you team with me. I hope, and then I hope I like you too. Very like byproduct of teaming was like there was a level of like popularity contest that happens
Right.
sometimes, which is it's high stakes. Everyone's
Weird.
I need
Right.
to make this film and get out. I need to make my feature. So I
Oh,
again never been on a set. I think when I first went there were people who had been in South by Southwest with features, people who'd been to
right.
con,
Wow.
people who'd never been on set before. It was very interesting. And then yeah, just to give you a little layout, first year is 2-year program. First year is you make 3 films in 1 year. And the
Wow.
first film is the kind of like way that we go about doing it is it's different track initiated. So the first one was director initiated. So I would have 3 ideas. I would pitch 3 ideas on stage in the MGSR theater that we have. And I would be like,
Wow.
this is one of my ideas. Here's another idea. Here's another idea. And then like people like I'd go, another person would go, and everyone's taking notes, and they'd be like, I think I might want to talk to Portlynn about her idea, like from all the other departments. So like editing, they're all sitting in the
Wow.
audience and they're all like basically like, I hate this. I don't want it. I love this. I hope no one else wants it. And so then afterwards, people would come up to you and be like, I love that thing that you said. I really want to talk. Can you want to get coffee? And then you'd have a deadline to team. And then once everyone's seen everyone's work after the first film, everyone's, oh, yeah, I don't like your, or, oh, I love you. I want to, like, so then it becomes like really,
Wow.
it's very interesting. So that was fascinating. And then, yeah, second cycle film is like screenwriter initiated. And then the third one's producer initiated. And then no one,
I
now I'm the
see.
one writing. Oh, I love this. Or it was
Right.
very crazy. Yeah.
I'm too much of an introvert for that. And like you said, in filmmaking is that one thing, that one art where you have to rely on other people to like do your art. Cause if I'm writing a book or whatever, I can ask your opinion but I don't necessarily have to change it based on what you're doing. Unless I want to be like a dictator, you almost have to collaborate in the filmmaking process, unlike any other type of art.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned, I think that's what I most appreciated about that experience was I really learned how to talk to people. And like my favorite thing is like leadership skills. I feel like just because you're a
Right.
good artist doesn't mean that you're a good leader. Like you could be the
Exactly.
brilliant storyteller in the world. And as someone who had actually worked for a few years on projects as an animation artist, I was keeping track of like things I liked and didn't so much like about the leaders around me and just took
Interesting.
mental notes. Oh, as someone who's working for a director, I don't know if the way that this director is talking to me elicits the
Right.
most motivation out of me. Like I'll do it, but like I could feel myself being like, oh, okay, I'm not, or oh, this is exciting to me. So I would try to like bring those things that I'd experienced as someone working for director to how I treated people. Like I was so open about, I don't know anything. Can you
Right.
please, if I'm doing something that like makes you feel disrespected, if you feel like I could be like doing something better, just take me to the side privately and let me
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
We're all here to make a film. It's not about ego, in my opinion. It can be, I think, but yeah, the leadership skills is
I wish more people took that approach, Portland, because I think people always just want to be perceived as this, oh, that person knows what they're doing. They have all these credits. But I feel like you're learning and you're evolving as a person. If you go into a room and you're like honest with everybody and be like, don't know much about this, but I'm very interested in learning. You know what I mean? It feels like that's more authentic to like get to be like a more evolved like filmmaker.
yeah, I think I always have these like interesting plateaus where I do feel internally like I know things. And then I'll
Right.
realize I don't. And the thing is, you're not going to learn anything. For me, I'm
Right.
not going to learn anything if I pretend that I know it. Like there's a fake it till you
Yeah.
make it. And I think that comes from fake the confidence to say I don't know it
Right.
versus
Yeah.
like fake knowing it for me.
Oh, I completely agree. So you said Project Involve was very similar in terms of AFI and how they set it up. So MOSH is a project from Project Involve. Can you talk about that process and how it resulted in MOSH?
Yeah, no, so I actually was super anxious going into Project Involve. I had actually just finished. I spearheaded Netflix Animation's
Cool.
story apprenticeship program in fall of 2023, and I had forgotten I had applied for Project Involve. And the apprenticeship program I did was like 12 weeks. I made the curriculum, which is so it's my fault that I made so much work for myself. And we had 5
Wait,
apprentices.
you made the curriculum and you made the curriculum very difficult?
I did. I like to challenge myself for some reason. And the last assignment was that I was like, oh, what if, because I'm like literally at Netflix, I want to direct. Maybe I should write the first act of a movie and direct it and have my apprentices storyboard the first act of a movie in a month. So we did that.
Wow.
That was crazy. It went really well, but like the moment it was over, I was like, I want to die. And then
Why
the
did
very
I
next
do
day,
that to myself?
I don't know why I did this. I'm glad I did it, but yeah. And then the very next day, I found out that I got an interview for Project Involved, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be so much work. I want to go to bed forever. So I had my interview. It obviously went well. And then they were like, okay, you're going to start in January. And we had like a spreadsheet of everyone's like information, their films, their bios, their Instagrams. And I just went through and I watched everybody's stuff.
Oh,
Like,
that's cool.
yeah, I spent my Christmas vacation just like looking at everyone's work and like keeping track of whose sensibilities I felt aligned with mine, rectifying my mistakes from AFI, where I'm like, I just like people. And I'm like, no, I should know who I like really want to like maybe work with. And I like started having coffees with people. We started the program, and what they do is it's writer initiated. So instead of 28 people per directing, producing, whatever, it's people per thing, except 4 directors, 4 writers, 1 writer director. So that was cool. So I knew immediately that there was a writer, Hiram, he had done a feature with his partner called Boner Man
Okay.
that was like ridiculous and like silly, but had so much heart to it. And I knew immediately, I was like, I want to work with that person. I was very like blatant about it too. I was like, I no, does anyone else? Okay, I'm gonna do it. Back off. But I watched his film. I loved it. They give the writers a prompt, which was the bonds that bind us, which I thought was very funny. I was like, the water
Okay.
that is wet. It was just very silly to me, but I appreciated it. And they pitched a few ideas. We talked to the writers about which ideas we felt were the strongest. And for the first 3 months, no one's attached to anything. The writers are left to their own devices to write the stories. They do log lines, then they dwindle it down to one idea. They write the script, the first pass of the script, and the whole time we go to Film Independent like once a week, like
Okay.
people with full-time jobs, once or twice a week. Actually, I think 3 times sometimes. And it's like from 7 to 10, we would be like sitting off to the side, and then they'd have the writers and the executive producers. There's an executive producer track as well, talking about the scripts after they've submitted drafts. And so we're not allowed to speak. So we're just sitting there, oh, I have an idea, but we can't say anything. I knew I wanted to work with Hiram, and I immediately messaged him. And I actually talked to him on the side. I was like, hey, can I talk to you? And so we just formed that kind of relationship. It was still not certain because the directors actually have to pitch on 2 projects in April. So that
Okay.
whole time, no one's really attached. Finally, they get an executive producer attached, then a producer, and then I pitch. I got the one I wanted, and then you fundraise, and you have like a month to fundraise like $50,000.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah.
I think they're changing it because the only way that you can possibly do that is using matching grants, and matching
Right.
grants take like I was
Forever.
very
And a lot of
fortunate working.
applications. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was very fortunate working at Netflix because Netflix actually does double match. So
Ooh, sweet.
if we'd only really need to raise like $10,000 or $15,000 to get our full match, if we were like asking people to like, hey, can you donate? So that was really cool. And but that was crazy. And then you have another month of prep. As directors, I'm like, the writers get 3 months and I get like one. This is wild. I appreciate the hustle, but I was like, I'm dying. So it was just a lot. It was a lot. The teaming process was like you have to do it in your free time. There's no
Right.
space during the actual like sessions to like, you can bond, but like you really have to schedule coffees. And I just felt so fortunate. I think I love my team so much. I made such a huge point to talk to people that I felt would fit right together. And I'm just so
That's
lucky that
awesome.
they all wanted to work with me. And I feel like it shows in the project. There were so many disagreements, which was really fun. Like
Good.
me and
Yeah,
Hiram
that's
did
good.
not agree on the story for a
Yeah.
really long time, but it taught me something really interesting about like constructive, friendly, collegial, is that the word?
Right.
Like
Yeah,
discourse.
exactly.
Once I got teamed, I had a lot of opinions about like how the moshing should be. Like it was supposed to be a mosh pit with they get into the concert and then there's actually a mosh pit. And we have a 2-hour conversation about it. And the thing I really and both very passionate about what we felt was right for the film. And that was always the case. It was never about ego. It was always about, I
Right.
really do feel that this is correct for the film. And afterwards, I was thinking about it and I was like, it never got sour. I've been in situations where just because, especially the director, like I'm on this project. This isn't my project. This film is inspired by Hiram's personal experiences. And I want to be respectful. But sometimes it can come across like a director's just like stomping around, being like, this is my movie
Yeah. It's my
now.
decision.
And
Exactly.
yeah, and I hate that. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that everyone feels represented and everyone feels like they're part of, again, like, how do I get people on the team that I'm now a part of to
Right.
feel motivated to contribute and have what they say be like everyone contributed to this project. Like our editor really helped define the music that was in the film outside of just like the amazing editing choices that she brought to the table. Our producer got so many resources. It's just amazing to me, just like how we had so much discourse a lot of the time, but it was always like we're on the same team, which is
I
great.
love that so much, and I think there's so many important parts. of that. But one important point about leadership, I think, is so important that I've seen in like leading a group is that like if you have people, no matter whether it's whatever is considered the lowest position all the way to whatever the director, if you have people anywhere in that group that feels like they're underappreciated or not, that they're not, their voice isn't heard, then 100% they could have a situation where they know something is going to go wrong, but they don't feel like voicing it because that person is not going to listen anyway. And then you just have a dysfunctional team. You're not operating at the highest level. Whereas if you have even a person that maybe just starting feel like their voice is important, they'll say something that you may have never noticed about like lighting or something like that because they're like inspired. They're like part of the team. They don't want to like tank this project. They want it to succeed. And that's mind blowing when you realize that when you like everyone's empowered, that you're all pushing in the same direction. And it's really wonderful to see on a team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Maybe I'm so in awe of, I desperately wish that I could know what it's like to be the kind of director that's, oh, you're, not that there's that many directors like this, but I feel like the perception of what a director is and does is, oh, you guys are blessed to have me in your presence. And I am
Right.
here. Yeah, listen to me and shut the fuck up. Sorry. But like, I
Yeah,
always,
no.
what is that like? How do you do that? I can't. I'm just like on set and I'm like, wow, you guys are here to let me make you do things. That's a lot of responsibility. Like I feel almost like responsible for everyone feeling proud of being a part of the project.
So before I ask you about Mosh, what was the executive producer track? Is that teaching people how to spend money? What are they doing on the executive producer
Let me
track?
rephrase. I should have said because it's like it's creative. They're creative executives, so
Okay, all right,
it's so interesting because they do so much, but also like defining what their role is difficult
right.
because it's not just like they would have 2 projects each. So
Okay,
they would additionally help with funding, they would help with they would mostly help the producer, I think, with a lot of things that the producer needed help with. And then
got
they
it.
would
Yeah.
offer, I think, especially earlier on in the process, a lot of like creative insights on like how to better the story. Our Yeah, our creative executive Chow was so instrumental in like giving a more, it's seemingly, even though she's not objective, but this objective kind of, did you guys think about this? I'm feeling like this
That's
is
all.
not working so well. But what about this? Like she was really fantastic with helping with story. And I felt like she really understood the vision. But yeah, it's so interesting. They make everything happen. So they get teamed first on the projects and then they select, like I think help select who joins the project. Like when the directors pitch, I think the executive producers would have like very no nonsense conversations where they're like, we feel this director would be best for this project. No, we feel like they would be better for our project. And here's why. Very, behind the scenes stuff.
Love it. So Mosh is fantastic. Like I said, the story 90 seconds in, like where we are, we know the layout of the land. So can you tell people like what they should expect when they turn on Mosh?
They should expect, the thing is, like, for me, this film, I've done a lot of comedies and I mostly like to write my own stuff. And I really loved this particular experience of working with a writer and the fact that it was like a personal story. And it's, for me, it's a film about masculinity
Yep.
and how one can, what does masculine emotional release look like
Right.
in a way that's, I'm not going to say feminine. It's not feminine, but it's like the equivalent of like how women cry with each other, but like in the male way. This is a film about a father
I love
trying
that.
to like keep his own drama away from his son on his son's special day. And by trying to like uphold this masculine, I have it together, he's ruining it. And
Right.
it's about like realizing that this isn't the way to, just being vulnerable is the only, it's like the only way out is through emotionally. So for me, I was like, oh, it's a drama, but it's also fun.
It's
And I
funny.
tried
Yeah.
to, thank you. I tried to
That-
make it like it was going to be entertaining no matter what, but like keeping the relationship the core. So I hope that when people watch this, I hope that what they should come in to expect from it is like they're going to have a fun time, and they might, I don't know if they're going to cry, but
Right.
they're going to feel something. And that's what I hope is like getting to know this dad, getting to see how this dad goes through the emotional roller coaster of trying to keep it together and then ultimately failing. Not to ruin the movie, but yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I think that's what I most hope for the movie.
I completely agree, and I think there's a special element to it that's reserved, like, that it comes through like, your description comes through the filmmaking. It's not like you're beating somebody over the head with that. I think it's evolved in the sense, like, you get to that conclusion near the end, and it's well earned, like, you're in with the characters, you understand both what the dad and what the son are going through, and I think that's fantastic in a short film to be able to pull in all those emotions in a 13-minute runtime. So, what is it premiering at Slamdance? Is this like your first like full screening of it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what
Thank
are you
you.
expecting when you sit down, like, and have people watching it? Is there like a Q&A after? Like, how was that what is your mindset going into this?
That's a great question. I think so. Project Involved, this is the first year they're doing this. I
Right.
actually had no clue. None of us had a clue that we were going to be in Slam Dance. So it was like, I think the week of Christmas and we found out. And I was like, wow, oh my God. I'm like, that's off. I have no idea what to expect. We were supposed to have our own like film independent first look screening the week that the fires happened. So
Oh, no.
we were supposed to have it on the 9th of January, but because of the chaos and insanity and the
Right.
tragedy of these fires, we felt everyone agreed it was best
Of
to
course.
postpone.
Right.
And so because Slam Dance had already been something we were going to do, they've merged the two because our first like screening was going to be like anyone could come. Don't need to really like you need to RSVP, but it's free and there's going to be a night
Right.
to celebrate us. And the Slam Dance screening, I think, was more like straightforward Slam Dance. And so they've merged the two. So now on Tuesday, we're going to be at the DGA. It's going to be essentially like
Yay.
what we were supposed to have for our first like screening, but with Slam Dance. And I'm really excited. I think we're going to have our own like step and repeat. I think we're going to have a Q&A. I can't tell because I think with the first look screening, I don't think we're going to have a Q&A, but I think with Slam Dance, we are. I don't know. But I've actually like not really gone to very many film festivals in person
Right.
because all of the films that I've done, for the most part, either I couldn't go or like my thesis, They Won't Last, it came out during the pandemic. So I, we got 50 festivals and I didn't go to any because I couldn't over Zoom. I'm like excited. I like, we had a red carpet yesterday for Slam Dance. I dressed up. I'm excited to do that. I have no idea
Yay.
what's going to happen, but I'm excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've earned it. So,
Thank you.
what are your thoughts on the role of short films? I know this is a fantastic film. I think it needs to be seen by anybody who has the ability to see it at Slamdance. But you look at some of the media coverage of it, and it's watch these features, and it's you have so many great short films at Slamdance that I think why haven't people watched it? Why haven't people pointed them out? Like, how do you view that? Like, do you view it as, like, you have to make something just to get somebody to be like, "Yeah, do you wanna make a feature, Portland?" Or is it like, "No, I just made this, its beauty is in its own form. I wish more people, especially in the media, appreciated that rather than just trying to grade things based on whoever might sit somewhere else to watch it later on."
I agree. I think that's a great question. I think there is a validity to the short being in its own right a stepping stone to a feature. I
Right.
understand that. And I understand that filmmaking outside of just a passion and an art form is also like a way to craft a career and earn a living. And it's really difficult to do that with shorts. So I understand like the excitement around a feature versus a short in that like mass audience appeal marketing kind of way. You can make money off a feature. Like we're hoping, like people are hoping to get
Right.
distribution for a feature versus no one's really going to do distribution for a short because like what audience for the most part, I hope these
Right.
audiences exist. I know that they exist,
No,
but like a
completely. Yeah.
general public audience isn't going to pay cash money to go watch a short.
Although they should. They should.
They should. I agree. But I understand that. I get that. But I think at the same time, there is a beauty in the art form of short form storytelling. And I feel like when it comes to like marketing and excitement, it's sadly up to us as the filmmakers to really market ourselves. I've met so many amazing short film directors who are like PR geniuses who are like,
Yeah.
we're like we're gonna get the title of our film printed on shirts. Our editor's gonna get that done for us. We're gonna walk around and people are carrying QR codes. Technically,
I know.
we have the QR code to buy our tickets for our screening. Everyone has one. We're like networking at events, being like, "Oh, what film are you? Oh, you're going to be in that block. Oh, I'm going to sign up. Oh, you want to sign up now?" And it's this
Holy
very
shit.
like, yeah, you have to do so many things as a filmmaker. You have to be good at storytelling. You have to be good at leading
Marketing.
people and
Yeah.
talking to you, and then you have to now market yourself and schmooze. I feel like schmoozing sounds like a dirty word. Like, go outside maybe your comfort zone and be like, watch my movie now, please. Thank you. So it's interesting how there is a favoritism to features, but I think because just like on a pragmatic level, I get it. Like I understand like where people need to invest their resources, but I agree with you. I love short films. I make one like every year just to try to stay like sharp. Like I'd love to
Current.
do a
Yeah.
feature, but that's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot of money.
I'm sure you're gonna be asked at many times at Slamdance, "Oh, are you working on your feature, Portland?" So, one other thing I've noticed, so your social media profile is, I would say, larger than the average in Slamdance filmmaker. There's some Slamdance filmmakers, directors who are like eschew all social media. They're like, "I'm not gonna do that." Do you feel like that has helped you in this age of you read about like on the indie podcast talking about like you need to have a certain number of Instagram followers to get cast as like an actor, stuff like that is like the current discussion. Do you feel like that maybe not a requirement, but do you feel like this is helping my career by keeping your animations and your social media profile current and relevant?
That's such a yeah. I really don't feel like if it's affecting me in a positive way, I really can't
Yeah.
tell. I feel like because I work full time in animation and my Instagram started solely when I was doing animation. So a bulk of
Yeah.
my following comes from people who like my drawings over like my filmmaking. I don't really know if a
Yeah.
lot of my followers even know that I make films like that.
Right.
I actually stopped
Right.
posting completely unless it's like to promote something because I mostly do stories. But I feel like
Right.
for me, it's helped me in terms of staying engaged with the friends of mine that I have who ultimately I don't see a lot. And when I do need to
Right.
like fundraise for things, like they're like, "Oh, I see you. I want to help
Yeah.
you." And I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It
That's
feels
awesome.
less so about like a following of come my followers, help me. Like it 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 feels more like, oh, friends I don't see
Organic.
often. Do
Yeah.
you want to help me
Right.
out? Yeah, that's more of the vibe. And I know for a fact that follower count affects actors,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it affects filmmakers,
Yeah.
like directors, writers, producers as much because we're not so much. Sometimes people behind the camera can be like the face of the project, but I
Right.
think the conversations, because we're mostly initiating projects, I think that's like the compensation is no one knows me. So I need to cast someone that people do know, but I'm not a fan of
Right.
that. I like to cast people who
No,
just
not at
feel
all.
right. Yeah.
I completely agree, and it's a shame that more funders don't feel that way. Like, the power of introducing somebody, I think is and that's what's great about Slamdance is there's so many first-time directors. I think that power is so much underrated because why if you've heard of somebody or if they've already been connected with somebody you've heard of, that's great, but, like, you realize you're not necessarily learning something about somebody new. You're, like, already hearing about somebody that has already been successful to some degree. I'm more interested, I think a lot of people are finding out about somebody's art I've never heard of and can make me think in different ways that I've never thought about film like before.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that about this festival. Even the documentaries we saw yesterday at opening night was something I don't know if I would have had access to if I was just like
Right.
scrolling through any random streamer or
Yeah,
like
exactly.
and then like I've been to like Sundance and I'll see 8 years ago I went to Sundance for the first and only time and I saw so many movies at the time. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am watching an Oscar award winning movie." give it time in a year. This is going to be out. I could say I saw it
Yeah.
first. And then I never heard about it again.
You never hear, right. Yeah, no.
Yeah. And it's so frustrating. And I love that like festivals like Slamdance in particular are like going even deeper. Cause like the film I
Right.
watched had like a bunch of like famous people in it at Sundance. And
Yeah.
I like that's cool. But I love watching just like cool stuff. There's no like spin to it. It's just this is amazing. These are like people I've never heard of. They're talking about stuff
Right.
that no one's talking about. And it's interesting and it's different. And I'm not saying that other festivals aren't doing that, but I feel like Slamdance it seems like that's what they're trying to do. And I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Speaking of that, I think that's something that's so interesting about the film industry, and it's a little bit of a struggle to get people to talk with me about it. But one really interesting thing, Portland, like I've started going through like the Oscar winners for best live action short over the past few years. And you look back 10 years, right? You would think, okay, you win an Oscar for your work, you're going to get like a ton of opportunities. This person is going to be like, they made it. And you look back and for a lot of them, they haven't been able, and I assume they want to continue. I assume you win an Oscar and you're not just done with filmmaking. Good, that part of my life is over. So they have to assume that they want to continue making films. But for many, there's nothing. They have produced. Okay, you get the biggest opportunity done, and you're not given more opportunities to make another film. It's mind blowing.
I don't get it. I'm personally like wrestling with this myself because I don't know. I feel like there's always this like ethereal like award or recognition or acclaim or
Right.
opportunity that people are striving for even once they like hit one like benchmark they're like oh but
Yeah.
Oscar like
Right.
I won a student Emmy coming out of AFI that was my if I could only just win a student Emmy then I would be like a person and and then I won it, and I was like, "Yeah!" And it was a topic of conversation in general meetings for
Yeah.
a couple of years, but then, like, I went to a friend's wedding, and, like, almost everybody there was in the same, like, part of their, like, career journey,
Right.
stage, and it was like student Emmy, student Oscar, DGA award, a bunch of like young at like at least 5 years out of like college has had some success for the like stage of career that they are in. And everyone was like in a very similar place, like making stuff on their own or like doing some freelance stuff. And some people were doing it, but it was almost like the thing that we bonded over was like, no one actually cares. Like,
Right.
for at least for this, like, you'd think Oscar would make a difference.
You
Like,
would
you
think.
won,
Yeah.
you got nominated, and it does have I think it has some, like, bargaining power, I think, like, whatever.
Right.
I know someone who was nominated for an animated short Oscar, and, yeah, like, that really helped them get, like, their next thing. But it's fascinating just how I don't know the ins and outs of that late level,
Right.
excuse me, of the industry, but I went to a talk for Ava DuVernay, and she was talking about how even after all the stuff that she's done, it is a struggle for her to get something made. And like for me, I've pitched on features. I actually decided to apply for a bunch of programs like Project Involved because I had a general meeting where they wanted to hire me or they said they wanted to hire me. And they were like, yeah, but you haven't done anything. And I was like,
What?
but you could change all that. And but the point is they have to prove to their boss that, like, it's a safe
Oh,
bet to
man.
hire me, and it's interesting that I'm sure people who have, like, Oscars still have to prove themselves,
Right.
and even doing Project Involved, the reason I did it was because they were like, "Maybe do some, like, well-known initiatives, career development, shadowing." I did that. I was like, "I'm shadowing people. I'm I got in." And then I was talking to a friend of mine he did like a bunch of different programs at the same time.
Right.
And I was like, Pride Involved killed me. Oh my God, I'm so tired. And he was like, apparently you got to do 5 of these for anyone to even look at you. And I'm like, what? What? Goalposts.
What?
I just feel like the goalposts keep moving unless you're like extremely lucky or hustling like
Yeah.
crazy. I have a full-time job. I'm technically working in film anyway, but it's really tough to get people to bet on you, I think.
Yeah. I think the main takeaway from this is just fucking do what you want. Make the film that
Yeah.
you want to make because it's not gonna like making the film that somebody else wants you to make is not even if it gets you the highest laurels, is not gonna get you what you want anyway. So why not at least have the satisfaction knowing that what you've produced is something that you
Something you
wanted to put
like.
out there.
Yeah.
Because think about all the people that have sold themselves out. I need to do this for whatever, and it doesn't end up mattering. But then you also have art out there that you don't like, you're ashamed of, and you're like, I wish it would have been like my cut. Might as well just go with your cut because all the other award stuff doesn't matter anyway.
Also, you're working so hard. Like,
Right.
I am staying up till 2 in the morning. I am driving around town, location scouting and doing my work. I'm like taking meetings. I'm like, it's too much work. Specifically, I don't know if you have more money or working for a studio, but it's too much personal stuff at stake to just be like, you can't. It's all encompassing. Just do what you actually want to do. And the scary thing that I learned at AFI was like, this is the worst, was like, if you're the director, if it's good, you get all the credit. But
Right.
if it's bad,
Right.
you get all the producer didn't show up, or like our actor,
Right.
they actually couldn't do the thing they said they could do. It does not matter. No one's going to sit in the theater being like, oh, I bet the director had to deal with the really difficult blah blah blah, or I
Yeah.
bet they didn't have
Exactly.
enough time at the location. No one cares.
Right.
It sucks. But yeah, like, fight for the thing that you want because you're spending so much time. For me, I'm like, I should spend more time with my family. But
Yeah, I know. Like we've talked about like your full-time job, filmmaking, and then oh yeah, I have a life. Like that's like 1 hour of the day.
exactly. I'm just like, yeah, make the stuff you want to make. Cause I'm sure if you told Netflix years before Squid Game came out, so it's a story about, and then you just explain Squid Game, there'd be so many questions. I feel it's amazing
Yeah.
that
Oh,
a
yeah.
show like Squid Game or even Stranger Things is as
Right.
successful. It doesn't make, for me, it doesn't make statistical sense. Because there's this concept that there's through lines, like, "Oh, everyone loves superhero movies, so we're gonna make" No, like, Squid Game, Stranger Things, like, Crazy Rich Asians. None of these are alike. All of these are
Right.
different. All of them are successful. There is no pattern recognition to be had here. Just like, if you make it, someone will like it, and make the people that like it love it, you know?
Right. That's great advice. So, Portland, can you talk about what's next for you? Is there any projects in the works over the next few years that you're excited about?
I have been very slow going in development on a feature inspired by a personal experience of mine for the
Hey.
last 8 years. It's just really hard because it's been
Hell,
I've been stuck in outline phase for a really long time, but I have a short proof of concept for it that I'm really excited
okay,
about,
awesome.
that I want to shoot, but I'm waiting to have, like, at least a second draft done of my feature so that it aligns. So I could do the, like, "Oh, this is the version feature
Right.
movie." I'm currently working on that, but I think right now I'm taking a little bit of some breather time. So, yeah, next couple of years is the correct way to describe that. I'm not doing that this year.
Or do you think that they're like on come next Monday, is there going to be like an email saying that you've gotten accepted to another program? Or is there anything outstanding that you've applied for, Portland,
I
that
got
could hit you next
rejection
week?
letters in December, so I'm happy.
So this is an indie film podcast. Love hyping other people's projects. So we talked about filmmaking is collaborative, and you can tell just from how you are, like you're always giving credit to other people and showing that other people are a big part of your success. So two parts to this. Is there any film? I'm sure you're super excited about all the films at Slamdance, but is there any film that in particular you're so excited to be a part of? And it could be the same answer to the second question, but is there another indie film or filmmaker outside of Slamdance that would love more people to know about?
Oh my god. Oh, okay, wait, okay. I am the worst with names, so I actually don't know if I can actually say, but I'm really excited about the Unstoppable shorts. I've been meeting a
Yeah.
few, that's the shorts block. There's like a few of them with Slamdance, and I got to be in a few Zoom calls with some of the filmmakers who are doing those, and they seem
That's
amazing.
awesome.
And also, there's another film. I am so mad at myself because I got to meet all these people and talk to them for hours, and my brain just doesn't work correctly. So this is not going to help anybody, but there's going to be a film about stealing a Disney animatronic.
Okay.
That is
Interesting.
really
Is it a
exciting.
feature?
Oh my God, I think it's, jeez, my brain doesn't work. I think it's a documentary,
Okay. Is it
and I
Stolen
think it
Kingdom?
might be
I
a
think it is
feature.
Stolen Kingdom.
Yes.
Does that yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
a feature or a
that's a
short?
great film. It's a feature.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited about that one. Yeah,
I
I'm
love
like, this is
that.
so cool.
And it's so cool. It must be fun for you to look forward to just this week of just meeting other directors and seeing other works. The whole panel and the whole platform at Slamdance this year is phenomenal. Portlynn Tagavi, the film is MOSH. It is fantastic. Go see it if you can. I'm cheering for your continued success. This has been a fantastic conversation. I feel like I've learned so much about the business of filmmaking and AFI, project involved. I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me on the podcast.
Oh, same. Thank you so much for having me.